At first glance, Medieval Dynasty looks like any other survival game. Chop down the trees, pick up the sticks, gather some rocks, build a house, build a fire, scavenge some food. But that is only the beginning of the game. You see, later on, it develops into more of a medieval settlement management simulator, where you don't have to focus on the gathering tasks because you've got staff to do all that sort of stuff for you. You focus on the building projects and getting the most efficiency out of your workforce. It's in early access at the moment, but is it worth buying right now, or should you wait for the full release? Welcome back everyone, by the way. I'm Mark, and I'm going to give you my full thoughts on the early access version of Medieval Dynasty. So I'll tell you what the game is about, what I like about it, and what I feel still needs a lot of work, because do remember, this is still in early access, so the footage and gameplay you're viewing at the moment might well be different from what you see on release. So the first part of the game in the intro is like a survival game. You're a medieval refugee who's found yourself relocated to a new region that you're not familiar with. And first off, you're going to find a site to build a house for a bit of shelter. Only you want to find a site where you've got some decent farming land, a water supply, some wood nearby, and something to hunt and eat. You go through the usual procedure, of punching trees and picking up rocks and trying to find a few bits on the ground to pick up. But the game also gives you some basic quests to do, as well as a slight role-playing game element to this. But it is only a minor element, as the quests are fairly simple at the moment. You'll visit several villages throughout the game, and you'll talk to people there that you will either do tasks for, trade with, or try and recruit them to come and live at your settlement, which you'll then need to expand and provide housing for, arrange family accommodation. And later on, the game does develop into more of a settlement management game, where you're going to have to try and improve your workers' efficiency, keep them happy, keep them well fed and motivated, and of course keep them safe. At the moment, the only combat I've seen in the game is from hunting wild animals, although some of those can be extremely dangerous. There is also a bit of a story to the game as you're coming to this region trying to follow your uncle who came here years before and find out what happened to him and whether he made a good living there. Right, so let's look at the graphics and the sound, and for the most part the visuals are very good at this stage. At least all the outdoor scenery, to me, looks really nice, and it does have a good medieval feel to it. At first glance, I thought I was looking at stuff ripped straight out of Kingdom Come Deliverance, but I don't know about that, but it does look really good. I like the reflections on the water, I like the trees, and I love the lighting and the changing of the seasons and the scenery and how it is all affected. Some bits do look rough around the edges, and some of the character models could definitely do with some improvement. That's where it maybe falls down a bit at the moment. Don't forget, we're still in early access, things might change. But the scenery is absolutely spectacular, and I do really like that. The audio is also pretty good for the most part, with some very good ambient background noise, especially when you're walking through the woods, some really good bird song. I find that fits in really well, and I like that. And also some really cool medieval themed music. I don't know how authentic the music is to the medieval period, but to me, I really liked it, and I felt it set the mood really well. And it was also that catchy sort of music that you can just listen to over and over and over without getting tired of. As for voiceovers, there was none that I came across in the game at all, but who knows, they might put some in when the game's fully finished. Not that I feel it really needs it, unless they're going to do some work on some other areas, but more on that later. Now let's talk about some of the things that I really liked about the game and had a lot of fun with, and we're going to go back to the visuals. I really found the outdoor vistas very pleasing and relaxing, just to watch and enjoy, and the whole thing looked great. I really felt like I was strolling through a medieval village or a medieval woodland, and there's loads of unspoilt scenery. And I just found it pretty beautiful, especially the reflections off the water. Some of it looked like I was looking in a mirror, and it looked spectacular. Now granted, if you look too closely at some of the details on items, it's not going to look that great, and a lot of the character models of the humans and the animals in the game, yeah, they could definitely be better, and they might be by release, because don't forget, this is in early access. But I just love looking at the unspoilt wilderness and farmlands and forests and things around the game, and the changing of the seasons and how the lighting works and changes with the time of day and the shadows. I enjoyed all of that, and I just thought it was really good to look at. Another thing I really like is the game options. You can start custom games in this, which lets you choose things like the length of the seasons, how many days go by before summer changes into autumn, for example. And it gives you lots of options to either move the game along at your own pace, how you like to play it, and how fast you want to progress through it. There's also other loads of options which affect the replayability. You can go anywhere on the map from the start, and you can choose that site or this site to build your first house and develop your village out from there. You can choose loads of locations like the top of the hills to be near the stone and quarries, down by the river for a good water supply, maybe on some nice flat farmland to develop the fields. The options are yours. And another way in which each game is going to be different is that there's various villages scattered around the place, and you can choose who in those villages you would like to try and persuade to come and work with you and start your own family and produce an heir as well. That is all part of the game. And with so many different characters available, all with their own different skills and traits, by the way, then you've got loads of replayability in this, as long as you like the challenge of building something up afresh each time. Now, the core gameplay is going to consist of a lot of gathering materials at the beginning of the game and then a lot of building. And I have to say, the building is nice and easy, and I really enjoyed it. In this, you choose the building that you want, and then you rotate and position the outline of it, make sure it's going to fit and the ground's even enough and clear enough and you've got space. Once you've got that up there, well, you just basically go up and hammer on the individual sections of it. It tells you what materials you need and it puts them up. You don't have to fight trying to snap wall sections to roof sections and end up with something with a hole in it that never fits. You'll have seen that in other survival games, I bet. It's nice and simple here, and I really liked it. Now, as you develop your settlement and expand your family and recruit some workers, the game just feels really satisfying to see how things grow. And what I thought was just going to be a medieval survival game when I first started playing, I soon realised it's a lot more than that. And then the challenge becomes keeping your workers happy, because these aren't just generic people, these are all characters in the game with likes and dislikes and interests and traits and skills. And also, this really helps, I think, take away from the grind that you get in survival games where you're always trying to pick up 50 or 60 rocks and chop down 100 trees to do something. You can set your staff doing that sort of stuff later in the game. You can recruit cooks, you can build a tavern, you can get them getting a pot of stew on, so there's always some food, send someone else out to gather berries, someone else to make planks. I think that's really good, and I do like the settlement management side of this as well. Other little details in the game that I appreciated were nighttime. It gets seriously dark around this place without sources of electric light and things that we're used to in the modern world. And when you've only got a torch and the light from maybe a nearby dwelling to see by, you think twice before going out in the dark, because if you don't have a torch, it is seriously black and dangerous out there. And yeah, you could turn the camera up on the monitor, but you know, that's cheating. But I really like this. It makes you think twice before doing anything silly at night time and encourages you to lie down and sleep through the night, which is a good thing. It helps you rest and recover. And also, you know, you appreciate daylight and try and make the most out of it. I feel that adds a lot to the atmosphere in the game. And now on to a few things that I feel need some work in the game. Let's start off with the conversations that you'll have with other villagers. These are actually so bad, they are hilarious, because the options are so limited and pretty much the same with every villager you come across. You go up to every female character in the game. Hello there, pretty lady. It's just so cringy. And by the time you've done this to 20 or so characters, it becomes a bit of a meme. So I really hope they're going to expand the conversation and dialogue system. I don't know whether they'll put voice acting in. The game doesn't necessarily need it because the quests and things are quite basic, but they definitely need to just expand a little bit on the conversation options to make them feel a bit less generic. Now, I did mention a questing system in the game. Yeah, this needs some improvement. I would like to see some improvement anyway. It's fairly basic stuff, and you get random quests that come up at certain times of the year, like you might be given a quest to go and kill some wolves that come near the village at night. That seems to be a repeatable quest, and it's sometimes given to you or offered to you at times when it's not possible to complete it, I gather, but generally the questing is very basic. There is a storyline with some story quests that go through this. I think they're more really to lead you through the game, to give you a bit of objective of what to do next, and it kind of holds together, but overall the questing system could definitely be expanded upon a little bit. The skill trees in the game are definitely a work in progress, because as you level up certain skills like farming and gathering and some hunting and things like that, you can unlock perks which are for the most part, very useful things. But some of the perks at the moment are either disabled or don't work, or at least they were when I played through the game. Some look extremely good and some don't really look very good at all. So I will say I love the idea of having perks that you can unlock and develop your character in certain areas, just how you see fit and how you want to play your character. I do like that, but yeah, we need to work on that bit, I think. Combat in the game could do with tidying up a little bit. At the moment, it's just hunting animals, which feels a little bit silly in places. Things like rabbits and deer, if you throw a sharpened stick at them, stick will pierce them and they'll run off with it, but they don't run very far, and they'll let you come straight back up to them and throw another one until they drop down dead. But then you get more difficult enemies like wolves, which are extremely dangerous, and bears, which you can turn into a bear pincushion full of wooden sticks, and it'll still chomp on you and kill you. So there's quite a difficulty curve with the type of animals you can hunt. Haven't come across any human versus human combat in the game yet. I don't know whether that's intended, but yeah, the hunting could definitely be just tidied up a little bit. But it is fun, I will say that. It's just fun in a haha, look at this is stupid way. Now, there are two big grinds in the game. The first one is for materials, when you're starting to build stuff at the early part of the game, getting the right amount of wood and rocks or whatever else to make the buildings. That bit, it isn't too bad. It does get easier later on, but you will find yourself picking up like hundreds of flowers and hundreds of berries, partly because they're useful and also partly because you can trade them for gold, and that leads on to the second part of the grind. Now, this one is a little bit more serious, in that when I played through, and I don't know if this has been modified since or if they plan to change this before release, but to get all the important recipes in the game, you go and buy them from one of the villagers. And to do that, you need gold, and a lot of gold. You don't really learn anything in the way of recipes from building stuff. You don't put up a basic engineer's workshop, and by the time you've done a few things, suddenly think, now I know how to upgrade this and can build the next one up. Then you go and buy recipes to do this. So it's this big gold grind, which is a bit harder to come by, that can slow down the game a little bit. So the big question, should you buy it now in early access, or should you wait for full release and things to get fixed and working properly? Well, it's going to depend on you as a player. You see, this is a sort of game where the story isn't really the main deal. It's not integral to everything. And the most fun you're going to have is playing it like a sandbox building game. You go and build your houses in the woods, and there's loads of replayability there. So you could buy it now and just play it loads of different ways. The game isn't inherently broken, but it does have some problems and needs fixing. However, I played through a good chunk of it, and I liked it so much because I really enjoyed it that I decided I was going to put it to one side and wait until the full release so I could play the finished, polished version and enjoy it that bit more. Seriously, folks, I had a whale of a time playing this. It was really good, but I want to see the full finished version so I can really enjoy it and get the proper experience, rather than playing through all the early access phases and beta phases and getting tired of it before it's ever fully finished and polished. So those are my thoughts. You make your own mind up on whether you should buy it now or wait, but I'm waiting so I can really enjoy it when it comes out, because this was so much fun to play.